Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here on this late, short notice. Oh my goodness. How is everybody? How's everybody? How y'all? How y'all? How's everybody in the naked bushes up there? How you guys doing? Uh, Melly Joe's here. Lulu's here. Miss Barbara's here. My posse's here. I want to pin this real quick just so that we don't forget what we're here for. Um, Listen, I thank you guys so much for coming in on just a short notice, but uh, I've been trying to catch up on some stuff today, as I'm always doing. I feel like I'm a cat chasing my own tail. Anyways, and some new stuff had come out about this, and y'all, my heart just is really, really heavy for this family. Um, Listen, you don't have to know somebody to care about somebody, and that's been my whole life pretty much. So I wanted to just do an update on what we know about what's gone on since then. There's nothing left really to tell other than um, still praying for the two women who are still in serious condition, and all three of them, the 13-year-old as well, who jumped off the roof. All three of them had to have surgery of different sorts. Now it's been reported that the 13-year-old that jumped off the roof, y'all, he had multiple breaks. So there's that. That's the other. I've got a little bit more information. I'll show it to you about the living victims here. I've also pulled the timeline on when the 911, or not the 911, I pulled the timeline that they have put together minute by minute of how everything happened from the first dispatch call until the end when the killer was shot. So we've got that. I've got part of the 911 call. Uh, there's only like two or three different sentences. Um, I think the Today Show's the one that actually sent for that and actually got it. It's kind of hard to listen to, but I think it's important. So we're gonna play that. But mainly, I just wanted to come on and and give the timeline of events that we know that happened that day, since we've gone back and forth, right? Where it started, where it ended, things like that. I also got pretty good footage of the footage that I couldn't find of the killer. I'm calling the killer. That's who he is. That was running away from the scene to go and hijack the car. So I've got the information on the car that was hijacked as well. And yeah, so we're going to get right into it. It's good to see everybody, all six of you, which is fine. It's fine. People in chat are some of my favorite people. So let's just get into it. I don't want this to be a super long live. I'm sure you guys over there in Australia have other stuff to do. Lulu is driving, y'all, and maybe you have something else you want to watch. But anyways, I let's start off. Let's just do the timeline. How about that? Let's do the timeline first. Um, I'm going to do the timeline first, but at the end, I'm going to go back over the timeline because it actually kind of gives you, and I could pull up my map and we can look on the map as he's given the timeline as to where the killer is going and where he ends up. So let's do that. We'll listen to this one. I am floating at the bottom or at the top of our live. Our disclaimer, Fair Use Disclaimer Copyright Act of 1976 gives allowance for this content to be used for criticism, common in news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. And I hope one of the mods would mind dropping that for me in chat as well. Hi, Darlene. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in, Love Bug. I appreciate you so much. All right, so I'm gonna make this as big as I can. You guys are gonna have to watch your ears. And this is coming out of Shreveport, Louisiana, y'all, that left eight children dead, seven of which were his own children, and one of them was a cousin. Um, oh, and it just broke my heart. His dad posted a picture of him, of his little guy, and it was their only son, and it's just terrible, you guys. All right, this was put out yesterday, actually, at 10:12 a.m. And I'm just gonna go ahead and let it play. Hold on. So I've got the whole timeline right here, but I'm gonna let the officer tell us about it, and then let me figure out where. Yeah, I think it's this one. Let me just see real quick. Yes. Okay, so this is the officer is going to go ahead and speak on the timeline of events here, and then we'll go over there. We'll read this again, and then at the end, I'll play the timeline again. We'll pull up the map. We'll look at it from there and see where he moved from. So let's do this real quick. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you. Benner, hello. Ears aren't going anywhere. Thank you, Melly Joe, for putting that in chat. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that otherwise may be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or purposes or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, let's go ahead and listen to this, you guys. It's terrible. It's minute by minute of what happened, and it's terrible. It's terrible. I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just terrible.
About 5:55 a.m. on Sunday morning, Shreveport police received the first call regarding a disturbance at a resident in the 300 block of West 79th Street. The caller stated that they were on top of a house. The suspect was inside and that a male had been shot. 3 minutes later at 5:58, dispatch received an additional call indicating the suspect was a relative of the caller. A minute later, 5:59 a.m., dispatch was advised that approximately 9 individuals resided at the location. The caller further stated that the suspect, identified as Shamar Elkins, had shot everyone inside the home. At 6:00 a.m., 1 minute later, the caller advised that she and her children had fled from the roof and were now in the backyard. 6:01 a.m., officers arrived on the scene. 6:03, officers made contact with the caller at the residence. At 6:05 approximately, officers requested the Shreveport Fire Department to stage at a nearby location close to Linwood. 6:07 a.m., a second call was received regarding a shooting in the 500 block of Harrison Street. The caller stated that her boyfriend had shot her, taken her 3 children, and fled the scene. 6:08 a.m., the victim identified the suspect as Shamar Elkins. At 6:10, dispatch linked the Harrison Street shooting with the shooting on West 79th Street and that they all were related. At 6:15, officers received information that the suspect had carjacked a red Kia Sportage at West 79th, closest to Linwood. At 6:17 a.m., our traffic units out on random patrol encountered or observed that particular vehicle traveling southbound on Interstate 49. The officers advised at 6:18 that they were crossing the Red River Bridge into Bossier City. At 6:20, officers received information that the children taken from the Harrison Street residence may be inside of the fleeing vehicle. 6:23 a.m., officers advised that they were exiting near Swan Lake area. 6:25 a.m. approximately, officers located the injured victims from the Harrison Street shooting. 6:29 a.m., officers made contact with the suspect through an exchange of gunfire. At 6:30 a.m., officers confirmed contact with the suspect in the 400 block of Brompton Lane. 6:40 a.m., officers advised that the suspect vehicle was empty and no children were located inside. 6:43 a.m., officers cleared the residence of West 79th Street where multiple deceased victims were located. 7:03 a.m., Shamar Elkins was pronounced deceased at the scene on Brompton Lane. 7:14 a.m., the Shreveport Police Department contacted the Louisiana State Police Investigative Division, and they began their deployment to the Bossier City address to begin to investigate the officer-involved shooting.
All I can tell you today is my heart is saddened. It has brought me to my knees, and of course that's a great place to be, because then we can communicate with God.
Apparently the shooter started at one place and shot someone who he had a relationship with or was in a relationship with. And then he went to the other location where there actually, I think, were 9 children there. One of the children has survived, but 8 of them were shot and killed by the same person. He then bolted from the house, hijacked a car, and took off. The police gave chase, and they ended up in an exchange of gunfire, at which time the assailant is deceased.
Over 30% of our crimes and 30% of our murders in the city of Shreveport are domestic in relation. Now that number has gone up. But we've more than doubled our homicides in the city of Shreveport because of one act of domestic violence. We as a community, black, white, Republican, Democrat, need to stand together and fight for what is right. This is nothing but pure evil. We can have 100 new police cars. We can have a brand new, beautiful, multi-million-dollar police substation right up the road. But until we stop this violence, the cycle of violence, like I've said over and over again, we're going to still be standing here, and it's only going to get worse.
Because the truth is this: domestic violence is not a private issue. It's not a family issue. It is a community issue. And when we fail to respond in a coordinated, consistent, and compassionate way, people die. This tragedy is a painful reminder that we cannot afford to work in silos. We cannot afford to wait until the next crisis. We cannot afford to treat domestic violence as an afterthought. We must ensure that every victim, every mother, every father, every child has access to safety, support, and intervention before the violence escalates. So today, I'm calling on every leader in this parish to join us in building a fully coordinated, community-wide response to domestic violence.
I was born and raised in Cedar Grove, so that was the neighborhood I grew up in. So I get it, and I just want to. It don't even have to be Cedar Grove. It can be Cooper Road, Allendale, Lakeside. All communities, all neighborhoods should feel the tragedy of today.
I'm asking you to please utilize every resource that the sheriff has brought forth now when you know that these situations occur. We cannot be and make this a joke. This is not a freaking joke. This is real, and this is the result when someone snaps. So I'm gonna ask the community, along with prayer, with every mental health consultant, counselor that is out here, this family and this community needs you. I need you. Because how do we get through this? How do we get to the next level? It is real and this is wrong. And these are the tragedies when there are domestic violence or domestic disturbances in our community.
Wow. Wow. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are just going back over stuff that has come out in the last day or so. Hi, Elliot. Good to see you. Going back over stuff that has happened in the last 24 hours. We have the timeline of everything, how it went down. The police have issued a timeline, and I mean it's minute by minute as to the minute that the first 911 call came in all the way until the killer was shot. So that's what we're looking at right now. Just updating ourselves on this, and also I've got the ring door camera footage that shows the perpetrator running away after the killings, and also the ring footage camera ring footage. You guys may have already seen all this, but I wouldn't be doing it justice, and I don't want to just leave. I don't want to. I don't want to cover something and then just leave it hanging in the air. There's still 8 children laying in a morgue somewhere. There's 3 people who are in the hospital. There's a man who caused all this carnage laying in a morgue somewhere. It's still important. It's still important to me right now as it was when it first happened. And I just don't want to be like, all right, he's dead. Sorry about the kids. I hope those people, and then just move on and keep going. Like for me, I want to just see it through. And for me, seeing it through is finishing this part of it up, the investigation up, and then prayerfully the surviving victims will pull through okay, and also being there in spirit when the babies are laid to rest. It means a lot to me, and I can't help it. That's just who I am. I don't like dropping things. This isn't over, and I agree with this lady who just spoke. She's a town council, and when she said, we're going to be right back here unless we do something. What do we do? I don't have those answers. I don't have those answers. The only thing I can do is, or know to do, is that if I know something, I say something. I may not go straight to the police, but if I'm close enough to that person, like, I'm going to try and help that way. But the other thing that I know to do when I don't know the people is just to pray for them, and then to bring awareness in some sort of way. And this is all I have. It's it. But it has to be enough for right now. This is just going to, this isn't nothing new. We all know somebody who is a victim of domestic violence, whether it was ourselves or we know a name. We know a name. And there might be somebody who comes across this live stream tonight who is actually a perpetrator of domestic violence. I hope you learned something. I mean, this is the tragic of the tragic, right? This is the end game of domestic violence. But even your words, the way you treat people, just one little slap, it could lead all up to this kind of end game. So get some help. I don't know from where. Go to your pastor. Go to your parents. Go do something. Admit yourself somewhere. Put yourself in a program. I don't know what would help you, because what might help someone else may not be the right thing for you. But you got to figure that out. That's your responsibility. Spare the babies. It's never worth it. That's right. Don't let it get this far. And for anybody who's out there who loves that person so much, and they say they know that they're in a bad situation, but they love them and they can help them, you can't help them. And let me say this one more time. It may just start off with a mean word, or a push, or an elbow, or a slap. Y'all, it intensifies and it keeps going. It may even take years. But domestic violence, this is the end game of it, without some kind of help. Okay, I'm going to go back and just read this part of the timeline again, you guys, just because I want it to sink in. And then I've got a couple of other things to bring up, and then we'll look at the map again with the timeline, because it is different than the last time I was live. The first time I was live, it was different from that too. So now that we have a timeline, we know exactly where it started and where it ended. So let me just read this. At 5:55 a.m., Shreveport Police Department received the first call regarding a disturbance at a home on the 300 block of West 79th Street. The caller stated they were on top of a home. The suspect was inside, and that a man had been shot. At 5:58 p.m., sorry you guys, I'm doing all this dyslexic stuff, and I'm sorry. At 5:58 a.m., dispatch received an additional call indicating the suspect was a relative of the caller. At 5:59 a.m., caller identified Shamar Wilkins. I don't know why it says Wilkins there. I don't know if that was, I think that's what it's hearing, and it's just typing it out. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe someone typed it wrong, but it's Shamar Elkins shot everyone inside the home and advised that 9 people lived at that home. At 6 a.m., caller advised she and her children had fled from the roof and were now in the backyard. At 6:01 a.m., officers arrived on the scene. At 6:03 a.m., officers made contact with the caller at the home. At 6:07 a.m., a second call was received regarding a shooting on the 500 block of Harrison Street, stating her boyfriend had shot her, taken her 3 kids, and fled the scene. The victim identified the suspect as Shamar Elkins. At 6:10, dispatchers connected with the Harrison Street shooting to the West 79th Street shooting. At 6:15, officers received information that the suspect carjacked a red Kia Sportage on West 29th Street. That's supposed to be 79th Street, you guys. This must be a talk to text. At 6:17 a.m., traffic units on random patrol encountered a vehicle traveling southbound on I-49. At 6:20 a.m., officers received information that the children taken from the Harrison Street shooting may be in the fleeing vehicle. At 6:25, officers could locate the injured victims from the Harrison Street shooting. At 6:29 a.m., officers made contact with the suspect through the exchange of gunfire. At 6:30 a.m., officers confirmed contact with the suspect. At 6:40 a.m., officers advised the suspect vehicle was empty and no children were inside. At 6:43 a.m., multiple deceased victims found at West 79th Street. At 7:03 a.m., the suspect was pronounced dead at the scene on Brompton Lane. At 7:14, the Shreveport Police Department contacted Louisiana State Police Investigation Division. Police later identified suspect 31-year-old Shamar Elkins and said his cause of death remains under investigation, including whether he was killed by an officer or died by a self-inflicted gunshot. This, of course, is his pictures. Smith said the weapon, Smith, who is the officer that is giving the presser on this, said the weapon used in the deadly shootings appeared to be an assault-style firearm, which I'm not, somebody put it in chat for me. I can't see chat right now, but does that mean that those kind of firearms don't have to be reloaded, right? I don't know how many rounds they carry, but I was curious as to if he ever had to reload. So let me know if you know anything about those, because I don't. The U.S. Army told CBS News that Elkins pled guilty to a weapons charge in 2019. He served the Louisiana National Guard from 2013 to 2020. He and he alone is responsible for the deaths of 8 children, Shreveport police said in a statement. Our hearts are with the victims, their loved ones, and those impacted by the senseless act of violence. 7 of the children are believed to be Elkins' own, and we know that now to be true. Authorities said the violence began as a domestic incident early Sunday morning. The children, ranging in age from 3 to 11, were found dead at the West 79th Street home. Some victims attempted to escape through a window and onto the roof. One child was found dead there later. Officials said Elkins also shot the mother of his children in the face. She is expected to survive. A second woman is in critical condition. City leaders urged the public to respect the family's privacy. Leave the social media chatter alone, the councilwoman said. The best thing you can do is allow them to navigate this devastating, traumatic process. Leaders also cautioned against spreading unverified information online, saying misinformation was already complicating the response and adding to the family's pain. Councilman Grayson Butcher called domestic violence a true epidemic in Shreveport and said addressing it must be top priority. Louisiana State Police are investigating the officer-involved shooting while Shreveport police continue to investigate the killings. And that's that. So we, like I said, we will go back over the timeline at the end of this, you guys, with the maps, just so we can show you guys. I can show you guys what we have there. Let me just jump in chat really quick. It's so good to see you guys here. I feel Melly says, I feel for the child who survived. They will need so much support. My God, I can't even begin to, I went to sleep last night, y'all, thinking about him and what he must have heard and felt and seen. And for him, knowing that because we don't know if that's one of his children, right, that was there, or if it was another nephew or whatever. We don't know how the child who jumped off the roof and broke his leg, we don't know how he's connected to the shooter, but obviously he's probably family. But to know that he knew that man in there, very intimately, as far as being family and always being around him. and knowing he was in there killing his people, right? Terrible, terrible. Possibly his brothers and sisters and his cousin. Possibly, surely he watched, at least one of the women be shot. It's terrible. It's just terrible. I mean, oh, it's terrible. There's so much I could say, and I'm trying to watch my words. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you, Love Bug. Hi, Holly. Good to see you. Holly Naomi. That's a beautiful name, by the way. Beautiful. Seg. Good morning, honey. Sorry, I've not been on. Had a loss at work, so been gutted. Oh, God bless you, Love Bug. It's okay. It's okay. Big prayers to you and big hugs to you, honey. I looked after him for 10 years, but it hit me hard, this one. Big hugs to you, honey. You take your time and grieve in any way that you need to grieve, and just take your time. Always misinformation online. And that's why it's really important for me I don't necessarily even ever think about, oh, I want to get online and be the first person to throw this out there. For me, it's more about trying not to spread rumors, trying to be as factual as possible. Do I get some things wrong? Yeah, but I always admit to it, or I try to say, this is just me speculating according to what I have, the information that I've gathered already. And so that's why tonight we're also here, because the timeline was dropped, and also because now we know the first live, the way that it looked like it all started on the 79th Street. And then the second location would have been the Harrison Street. And then the last live I did, it looked like, no, it started on Harrison Street and it ended on 79th Street, which is kind of how it still looks. But I thought all of the children were all at the 79th Street house. That was not true, because he went to the Harrison Street house first, and I guess shot her there, his girlfriend, and then took his children out of the house, brought them to 79th Street house, and that's where that's why the police thought that maybe those kids were in the car with him, because there was no accounting for them until the shooter was killed. And then they were all identified at the coroner's office. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Joyce, so good to see you. Hope you're well. You never heard of this case. Seg, it just happened on the 18th. This just happened in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's very, very new. 8 children massacred. They're saying it is the biggest mass killing since 2004 in our country. 8 children. 8. From ages 3 to 11. All right, guys, we're going to keep going with this. I want to show you the doorbell footage. So let me backtrack just a little bit. After the 2 scenes where there were victims shot, and then he hijacks the car right there where we figured that out, right there on the corner of Linwood and 79th Street. Then he takes off, and as it's being said in the report, he takes off and he ends up over in Boisier, and then in kind of an affluent neighborhood, and he happened to turn down a cul-de-sac, and there was no way out. There were already 3 police cars on his trail that weren't even involved in this. They were just out regular patrolling, but they were listening to the radio, and they could hear, so they knew they had him. So let's bring up let me do this real quick. Let's bring up the doorbell footage where we see him in that neighborhood now. Well, I take that back. We will not see, they didn't release the part where the car came in. I'm sure that's on camera, but the ring camera footage, it only shows after he goes into the cul-de-sac. So you never see his car go in there, but you can actually see police going and trigger warning. You can hear gunshot fire. So this is where they're at right now. They're in the cul-de-sac, and this is where he loses his life. Okay, let me get this. Nope. Nope. Yep. Okay. I'm going to make it as big as I can, you guys. You're just going to hear regular sounds. See, it's so where the police have all come in. If you could follow my cursor, they're parked around here. This way right here is the cul-de-sac. It ends right over into here. I'll show you guys on the maps in a little while. Once he got in here, there was no getting out. There was at least 3 cruisers on his tail. But so these ones are getting there right afterwards, and you can see them pulling their firearms and heading towards where the suspect has pulled in. Now, mind you, these people don't know if there are children in that car until after he's already been shot. That's a scary thought, but what can you do? Hi, Katrina. I'm just letting this play a couple of guys. I'm letting it play a couple of times, guys, because I really want you. Oh, shit, I hurt myself.
I'm Insurance Commissioner Tim Temple. Did you know there are ways you could save hundreds or thousands of dollars on your homeowner's insurance? The Louisiana Department of Insurance Guide to the Wind Mitigation Survey is now available. Insurance companies are required to offer premium discounts for wind mitigation features on your homes. Scan the QR code to
All right, sorry guys, I lost that for a second. Hold on, let me go back over here and see if I can find it. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna make it as big as I can again. The sounds that you are hearing, you guys, is gunfire. So I know that can be disturbing, but this is reality, guys. This is what these people went through. This is why these babies are laying in a morgue tonight. It just breaks my heart. I can't deal. I just can't. Stop it there a minute. I'm going to make sure you guys can see it. Okay, you're gonna have to like zoom in. So I'll be quiet so we can hear what's going on here. So that was just a car door shut. All right, y'all, I'm gonna stop that right there. I'm So sorry. I know that's terrible to watch. Did I say hi to Katrina? Hi, Katrina. Thank you for coming in. Like I said, you guys, there's part of that video that was not released because obviously the Reed camera can see the car going in to down that road into the cul-de-sac. And I'm sure that there was more gunfire that you would have heard other than the very last one that we just did. Why did he do it? That's right. I can't zoom in if it's vertical. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Well, Holly, I try to give you guys my sources so that you could either write them down or I try to show them on the screen where you could screenshot them and then you guys can look it up for yourself. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm so sorry about that. Lulu works with domestic violence victims, you guys. She says, this is every domestic violence worker's worst nightmare. We hold our breath every time we hear of a woman and a child's passing. Praying it's not one of our clients. It's beyond horrific. Yeah. Sorry, I was 27. Please. Oh, I have to check later. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. All right. So the other one I'm going to seg is a survivor of domestic abuse. I'm so grateful you got out okay. Hi, Chris. Good to see you, love bug. Alex wants to know about how about a man's passing. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair question, Alex, and I'm going to let Lou answer that. And I don't think she meant any. Well, I know Lou enough to know that she didn't mean anything by that, but we do know by stats. I mean, we have to be honest, but we do know by stats that well, you know the stats. I don't want to offend anybody, but not right now. It's too late. I don't have a fight in me right now. All right, you guys, I'm going to bring up the other footage that I have. This one to me is the hardest to watch. And it's because, you know, at this point, the shooter has already killed all of those kids and shot his wife, his girlfriend, and had that 13-year-old not got off the roof, you guys, he would have been a 9th victim. So he still is a victim, yes, but I'm saying he could have lost his life as well. Let's bring this up real quick. This one's going to be a hard watch. I'll play it a couple of times. You could see the shooter leaving. If you can see my cursor, he's going to come from right in front of this car over here. He comes out of the house and he's going to run down the street right here. This is almost to the corner. No, this is the corner house right here. So he's going to hijack a car right over here, you guys. All right, let me make this as big as I can so you guys can see it. Nope, there it is. Okay. There is no audio on this one, you guys. There's no audio. You're just going to have to watch for it, okay? All right, here we go. That's not what I meant to do. I'm going to play it again, but before I do, I want to tell you guys this because I did see a couple of times where this has been put, even down here. This is my source on here is Reddit. It's really hard to find this video now. It's been taken off, whereas when it first played, I played it through AP News, and they even took it off of theirs. They've just got the picture up now of this, but they took the video off. So you can only find it like in Reddit, maybe on a Facebook site or something like that. But in the regular news, it's not there anymore. So right here, I have seen this kind of comment in a lot of different places. It says, did they blur him out halfway? He physically disappears at 8.8 seconds, but that's not true. If you watch him come out over here, the video right here kind of, I don't know, it stops for a second or glitches, and then you see him run in. Then when he gets closer into this light right here, if you can see my cursor, he does kind of disappear, but it's the light, against the camera, because if you keep watching, you could actually see him run out of view through these trees right here. So let's watch one more time, you guys. All right, I'm going to back it up just a little bit, or all the way actually. Once again, if you could see my cursor, he comes out right in front of this car. This is right here. He's going to come out right there. It's going to glitch out right there. He's going to come back into frame here. And then about somewhere in here, it looks like he just appears, but he doesn't. It's the light. Because if you keep watching him, you could see him leave the frame right there. All right. You guys, if you want to look at that for yourselves, you can find it on Facebook. I found it on Reddit. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you. Anyone's passing is sad. When you work with a client and lose them, it's even more difficult. Seg says, what was that running? He looks like a little runt. He wasn't that big. He was a little guy. DV involves men also. I agree. Alex, yes, however, stats are more women, hun. Okay, so let me take that down. Like I said, y'all, the dandelions are kicking my butt. Let's take a look at, what is this? Okay, this is the timeline of events again. So we'll stop that right there. And then all right, this nope. I think this is the latest that I ended up picking up. Okay, you guys, this is the latest that I see on any of, yes, he was married and him and his wife were due in court on, this happened early Monday morning. He and his wife were due in court for some kind of hearing, whether it's a formal separation or to begin their divorce, something later Monday morning. So that's that. Yeah, and then the other woman who was shot was mother of some of his children that he killed as well. And it's, some people are just calling her the mother of some of his children. Some people are saying that it was his girlfriend. I don't know. I do know that he posted something on his Facebook. I went through Facebook things, you guys. Well, and Lizzo is actually the one that helped me and sent me to those places, or was helping me gather as much information before it was all taken down. And a couple days before this had happened, he posted a meme that said something like, if you could choose different mothers for all of your children, would you still have those children? And he said, heck yes. So I don't know if that just means that, things didn't work out. A lot of people say they do their life over, but they want their kids. So of course they would walk those roads again, me included. So let me bring up the latest that was shared. Hold on just a second. Let me get this up here. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. Will you do me a favor? Hit the thumbs up. That's all I ask. Yes, this is it. Okay, cool. All right, guys, this is the latest that I found on any of the victims. And this was put out by WDSU News. And it was updated at 8:05 p.m. on April the 20th, which was just last night. So I'm going to let this play through. This poor lady, I hope she has a beautiful birth, because that's what that looks like to me. And this is right outside, y'all, of the 79th Street house where all of the children who were deceased were found. So I'll make it as big as I can. Y'all watch your own ears. And let's listen to this one. This one's just a 2-minute play, I think. Oh, and if any ads come up, you guys, I don't monetize none of this kind of stuff. I don't do that. So they're not my ads. I try to stop them whenever they let me, but they've got it to where they can play for like 10 seconds or 20 seconds. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it until they let me do it. So none of these ads are mine. I do not monetize anything like this. Never will I. All right, let's go.
Shreveport with a message from family and neighbors still reeling from this chaotic weekend loss.
The victims' families say they are heartbroken, losing 8 young lives. It's been a very emotional day outside of this Shreveport home along West 79th Street, where police say the children were killed early Sunday morning. A tribute honoring their lives continues to grow with flowers, balloons, and teddy bears.
I have no words. There's no words you can describe when 8 kids are deceased.
Family friend Satania Small left speechless after a mass shooting in her neighborhood.
How can you even process one day you have 8 beautiful babies and the next you don't? It's hard.
Heartbroken emotions, trying to wrap her mind around a domestic dispute that police say claimed 8 children's lives. Their ages range from just 3 to 11 years old.
Love and beautiful kids. Family love them. Family can't even express how much they gonna miss them.
Police say the suspect, Shamar Elkins, is the father to 7 of the young victims. According to SPD, he also shot 2 of the children's mothers. Both are in critical condition.
I have worked with kids I mean, I have a lot of nieces, nephews, and the fact to know a baby that can be that little, oh my God. It touches my heart.
Neighbor Dolores stopped by to pay her respects, adding to a growing memorial outside the family's home.
I brought some flowers, but I know it's not enough, but it just stays on my mind. I can't hardly sleep thinking about those poor babies.
An emotional day for students and teachers at 2 Shreveport schools dealing with the tragic loss of their classmates and friends.
The whole city is hurting. Everybody's hurting everywhere. Matter of fact, it's bigger than Shreveport. It's everywhere. It's nationwide. Everybody's hurting. Those are beautiful babies. And we just have to keep this family prayed up.
Shreveport police say the suspect, Shamar Elkins, had a previous criminal history. Another prayer service is set for this Wednesday. Reporting in Shreveport, I'm Jasmine Franklin, WDSU News.
All right, guys. So that was the latest that I could find of anything that had come out on that. Let me see down here if this is the one. Okay, so I want to read this to you because that was only part of it. Let me read this to you guys. It says the Shreveport Police Department held a news conference on Monday morning to provide an update on the mass shooting that left 8 children dead. New information was provided regarding those impacted and hurt in the shooting, as well as a detailed timeline regarding SPD's response to multiple scenes. According to police, 3 mothers were impacted by the deadly shooting. 2 of the women injured in the shooting, identified as Elkins' wife and his girlfriend, are undergoing surgery. A 13-year-old child who escaped the shooting is also undergoing surgery for injuries after the child jumped from the roof to escape gunfire. There were 3 crime scenes in total, one on Harrison Street, one on West 79th Street, and another one in Bossier City. pardon me, y'all. The children killed were identified by their mothers as Jayla Elkins, 3 years old, Shayla Elkins, 5 years old, Kayla Pugh, 6 years old, Layla Pugh, 7 years old, Markaden Pugh, 10 years old. I knew how to say this name and it just left me. Sarai. Lord forgive me. I think it's Sarai. Anyways, God forgive me. Snow, 11. Kidarian Snow, 6. And Braylon Snow, 5. The children attended school across the Shreveport area. The Shreveport mayor, city council, and faith leaders asked the community to pray for those impacted by the shooter. City leaders also stressed that those impacted by domestic violence should reach out to the city for resources available to him. And then one more time, you guys, I will play the timeline for you guys. I just want to, okay. This one's uses words a little bit differently. So let me read this again to you guys one more time. At 5:55, a caller told dispatch they were on top of a house and that the suspect was inside with a man. So see, that's a little bit different. The caller said the suspect was a relative and that 9 people were at the residence. The caller said that the suspect had shot everyone inside the home and that she and her children had fled from the roof to the backyard. Officers arrived at the scene at 6:01. At 6:03, officer made contact with the caller. Shortly after, police called the fire department to investigate. Now, I know that they asked them to stage down the street just a little bit and wait until they got all this put together. At 6:07 a.m., the second shooting was reported on the 500 block of Harrison Street. A caller said her boyfriend had shot her and taken 3 children and fled the crime scene. At 6:10 a.m., dispatch linked Harrison Street shooting to the shooting on West 79th Street. At 6:15 a.m., officers received information that the suspect had carjacked someone. At 6:17 a.m., officers located the stolen vehicle traveling on Interstate 49. At 6:18, a chase began and continued into Bossier City. At 6:20 a.m., officers believed 3 children might be inside the fleeing vehicle as it exited near Swan Lake area. At 6:25 a.m., officers found injured victims from the Harrison Street shooting. At 6:30 a.m., officers locate, shoot, and kill the suspect in Bossier City. At 6:40 a.m., officers determined there were no children inside the vehicle. At 6:55 a.m., police found multiple deceased children at the home on West 79th Street. And at 7:14 a.m., Shreveport police contacted the Louisiana State Police to investigate the officer-involved shooting. According to police, 10 people were shot on Sunday morning in Shreveport during a domestic violence disturbance. Police identified the suspect as Shamar Elkins. And then it gives the children's names again, which I refuse to butcher, but I have them pinned at the top of my chat. We already know that he had a firearm. There's, another firearm charge before. I don't understand that firearm charge. I don't want to keep harping on it, but I will say this. He was found within 300 feet of a school with a firearm. He was put in an ankle bracelet and put on, he had, I guess, bonded out, waiting for a court appearance. You guys, it was thrown out. The case was thrown out. I don't know. I don't know if he would have done time or I don't know. Would any consequences of that prevented this? I don't know. I can't look into the future of something that's not there, because there is no future for these kids now. There's nothing. So anyways, these are just the same things being read over and over again. So I'm going to go back over here. Let's take this one down because I have got it on audio where the police are talking about, they go over the timeline for us in their own words. Give me just a second here. I think it is, yes. All right, you guys, I'm gonna take that down. I'm gonna let this play through one time and then we're gonna pull up the map and I'll show you on the map. Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. Didn't mean to do that. All right, hold on. This was the presser that came out early Monday morning from the police department there in Shreveport, and it's a pretty detailed timeline. So I will let him read it off to us, and then we will go over it with our map. All right, let me make this big. Oh, and like I said, you guys, if an ad pops up, I try to get rid of it as soon as possible. They're not my ads. They belong to this channel right here, this source. So they're not mine. I get rid of them as soon as I can. I do not monetize ever anything like this. Nothing, and never will I, ever. All right, let's make this as big as I can get it. Watch your ears, y'all.
Shreveport police received the first call regarding a disturbance at a resident in the 300 block of West 79th Street. The caller stated that they were on top of a house. The suspect was inside and that a male had been shot. 3 minutes later at 5:58, dispatch received an additional call indicating the suspect was a relative of the caller. A minute later, 5:59 a.m., dispatch was advised that approximately 9 individuals resided at the location. The caller further stated that the suspect, identified as Shamar Elkins, had shot everyone inside the home. At 6:00 a.m., 1 minute later, the caller advised that she and her children had fled from the roof and were now in the backyard. 6:01 a.m., officers arrived on the scene. 6:03, officers made contact with the caller at the residence. At 6:05 approximately, officers requested the Shreveport Fire Department to stage at a nearby location close to Linwood. 6:07 a.m., a second call was received regarding a shooting in the 500 block of Harrison Street. The caller stated that her boyfriend had shot her, taken her 3 children, and fled the scene. 6:08 a.m., the victim identified the suspect as Shamar Elkins. At 6:10, dispatch linked the Harrison Street shooting with the shooting on West 79th Street and that they all were related. At 6:15, officers received information that the suspect had carjacked a red Kia Sportage at West 79th, closest to Linwood. At 6:17 a.m., our traffic units out on random patrol encountered or observed that particular vehicle traveling southbound on Interstate 49. The officers advised at 6:18 that they were crossing the Red River Bridge into Bossier City. At 6:20, officers received information that the children taken from the Harrison Street residence may be inside of the fleeing vehicle. 6:23 a.m., officers advised that they were exiting near Swan Lake area. 6:25 a.m. approximately, officers located the injured victims from the Harrison Street shooting. 6:29 a.m., officers made contact with the suspect through an exchange of gunfire. At 6:30 a.m., officers confirmed contact with the suspect in the 400 block of Brompton Lane. 6:40 a.m., officers advised that the suspect vehicle was empty and no children were located inside. 6:43 a.m., officers cleared the residence of West 79th Street where multiple deceased victims were located. 7:03 a.m., Shamar Elkins was pronounced deceased at the scene on Brompton Lane. 7:14 a.m., the Shreveport Police Department contacted the Louisiana State Police Investigative Division, and they began their deployment to the Bossier City address to begin to investigate the officer-involved shooting.
All I can tell you today is my heart is saddened. It has brought me to my knees, and of course, that's a great place to be, because then we can communicate with God.
Apparently, the shooter started at one place and shot someone who he had a relationship with or was in a relationship with. And then he went to the other location where there actually, I think, were 9 children there. One of the children has survived, but 8 of them were shot and killed by the same person. He then bolted from the house, hijacked a car, and took off. The police gave chase, and they ended up in an exchange of gunfire. At which time the assailant is deceased.
Over 30% of our crimes and 30% of our murders in the city of Shreveport are domestic in relation. Now that number has gone up. But we've more than doubled our homicides in the city of Shreveport because of one act of domestic violence. We as a community, black, white, Republican, Democrat, need to stand together and fight for what is right. This is nothing but pure evil. We can have 100 new police cars. We can have a brand new, beautiful, multi-million-dollar police substation right up the road. But until we stop this violence, the cycle of violence, like I've said over and over again, we're going to still be standing here, and it's only going to get worse.
Because the truth is this: domestic violence is not a private issue. It's not a family issue. It is a community issue. And when we fail to respond in a coordinated, consistent, and compassionate way, people die. This tragedy is a painful reminder that we cannot afford to work in silos. We cannot afford to wait until the next crisis. We cannot afford to treat domestic violence as an afterthought. We must ensure that every victim, every mother, every father, every child has access to safety, support, and intervention before the violence escalates.
All right, y'all. We have those are city council member, fire department, the police chief, all that. We've watched those many times. I want to stop it right there because thank you so much for being in here. I appreciate you guys so much. I want to jump in the chat really quick. Hi, Steve. Good to see you, Love Bug. Elephant Love, good to see you, honey. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody up in the bushes as well. Thank you so much for being here. This is such a tragic story. My heart is so heavy. I don't even I don't know what to do other than what I'm doing. I feel like I need to do something, and all I want to say is if you're in a situation right now where your life is in any kind of danger, or you think, oh, he just had a bad day, that was my fault, or she just had a bad day, that was my fault. Listen, domestic violence only escalates. You can't help the perpetrator. It's not your job to fix anybody. I don't know who you can go to. There's a hotline number, and I wish I had looked it up to begin with. There's a hotline number. Contact somebody. Contact your minister. Contact a counselor. Contact the police station. Contact someone online. Contact me. Especially if there are kids involved, because this is the end result of domestic violence. It never gets any better until the perpetrator and the offender does the work for themselves. And sadly, 9 times out of 10, that never happens. It will always end in severe violence. I beg you, especially if your children are in that house with you, find a way. I found a way. And that's all I'm going to say. I found a way. All right. Thank you, Mel, for putting in the copyright again. This breaks my heart for these babies. Breaks my heart. It's so good to see all of you. Thank you guys for coming in. I am just running over chat really quick. Make sure that I have tried to welcome everybody. It can also be very emotional. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, it probably starts emotional. It's terrible. All right, guys, let's bring up the map, okay? Because I think we've got a pretty clear understanding now how it started, where it started, and where it ended. So you guys are going to have to follow along with my cursor. I will bring it in as much as I can. The yellow dots on the screen, you guys, are my pins for this, okay? As you could see, it started over here where these 3 yellow dots are, and then it ended over here on Brompton Lane. And I'm going to try to go through the timeline and show you exactly what happened according to what the police have put out through their investigation and the calls. So let's go into... Let's go into their neighborhood, you guys. All right. The 2 houses that are involved are this house over here on 504 Harrison Street, and this house right here, 355 West 79th Street. Right here at 355 West 79th Street is where all the decedents were found. So by timeline, here we go. A caller told dispatch at 5:55 a.m. they were on top of the roof of the house. Hold on just a second. My phone is wanting to die. Don't die. Don't do that. All right. I got it plugged in. Hopefully I don't lose it. Okay. So the first call comes in from this house right here. Okay. At 5:55 a.m. The caller told dispatch they were on the top of the roof of a house and that a suspect was inside with a man. I don't know if that's talk to text, just messing that up. The caller said the suspect was a relative, that 9 people were at the residence. The caller said that the suspect had shot everyone inside the home, and she and her children had fled from the roof to the backyard right in here. Now, we do know that some of these children that were inside this house were already deceased because some of them were asleep when this went down. This went down very early in the morning, 5:55 in the morning. Now, there's no telling what kind of maybe domestic dispute was going on prior to this. I don't know. Or if he just walked in, we don't have any of that information. He just walked in and this is the result, or if there was some kind of domestic dispute in this house. But it was reported early on that some of the kids in the house were in their beds asleep. One child was actually found on this roof, deceased. And there were some first reports that came out said that some kids were right in the back door area, deceased as well, as they were trying to flee from this area. So this is the home of his wife, and apparently she made the call before she was shot. Then it says at 6:01, officers arrived on the scene. You guys, that's not bad. That's a four minute. That's pretty damn good. 4 minutes. Kudos to them. At 6:03, officers made contact with the caller, so they were able to get to her back here. Shortly after that, the police called the fire department. This is Linwood Avenue, you guys, going this way, up and down right here. I think the fire department were staged in here until they cleared the scene and made sure that the shooter wasn't still at the scene. At 6:07, you guys, this is just 4 minutes. 4 minutes from two calls. Actually, it was, yes, the officers made contact with the caller personally at 6:03. At 6:01, the officers arrived on the scene. Okay, so within 4 to 8 minutes, he was already at the other house, you guys. Because at 6:07, a second shooting was reported at the 500 block of Harrison Street. So he went from here after he shot everybody here. I'm sure he just ran this way. I don't know. To right here. This is where it is said his girlfriend lived, and she was the mother of some of his children that were killed as well. The caller said that her boyfriend had shot her, so she was still speaking when able to speak. I don't know where she was shot. It was first reported that both of the ladies were shot in the head, but now we don't know for sure. Another report said that his wife was shot in the face, but nothing has been confirmed by police yet. Caller said that her boyfriend had shot her and taken their 3 children and left the scene. So from there, he leaves the scene again, right? Now we know where he went from there. So he goes back. He brings these kids back over here. And the reason why we know that is because after he leaves here, we've got him on video running down the street right here, and somewhere right in here is where he carjacked that red Kia, and then he took off, and the next time he was seen was when he was killed, and there were no kids with him. So the first call comes from here. The next call comes from here, and it said that she had been shot and he took her children. So the children are still alive. He brings them back over here, and from what I can tell, he murdered them there. He leaves the scene. From there, we've got him on video camera coming from this house right here. This house has a Nest camera on it. We see him running across here. He gets over here and he runs down the street. The very next thing he does is he carjacks a car from someone right here at gunpoint. Let's zoom back out. I'll let you know where he goes after that. Where am I? Okay, I know where I'm at. Thank you. It's right down here. Wait, what the hell happened to my other pin? There it is. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. All right, so now he is already slaughtered his family, you guys, and shot his wife, his girlfriend, and we know a 13-year-old boy was on top of the roof. There were several children that were on top of the roof. I'm thinking at least two. Well, we know at least two. One jumped off the roof and broke some bones and had to have surgery for them today. And then there was a deceased child laying on the roof when the police got there. So he was able to kill him from there. Then he proceeded over here and he hijacked a car at gunpoint and started driving towards this residence right over here on Brompton Lane, where we actually watched the footage on there show the police. The footage cuts off. They spliced it so you don't actually see the car go in or the police chase them into the cul-de-sac, but it starts showing where police are. There's two officers, one running towards the scene that's out of view, and one that obtains a firearm out of the back of his cruiser and is walking up. And during that time, there is audio that you can hear gunfire happening. And I've already played that if you want to go back and listen to it, or it's out there. I found it on, they've pretty much taken most of it off of the internet already. So I went to Reddit, and that's where I got the video for it, because a lot of the videos been taken down already. So this is Brompton Lane right here, you guys. Sadly, this is where his life ended too. And look, he's a victim of something. He's a victim of himself. He's a victim of his own demons. He's a victim of some kind of mental illnesses. I'm not making excuses for this man at all. That's not who I am. It's never going to be who I am. There's no excuse to kill kids. None. Especially when you make a call on that Easter Sunday and tell your mother you don't want to live anymore, and that some demons you just can't get rid of. So instead of just going ahead and taking your own life, you decide just to take everybody's life and commit suicide by a police shooter. I don't know. That's just what I think about it. And don't kill the messenger, you guys, or kill me. I don't care. This is Brompton Lane. After his high-speed chase with the police, he ended up down here in a cul-de-sac where his fate ended. Where we saw the video from this area, you guys, is coming out of this house right here. The police cars were all down here. We know there was at least 3 police cars that took chase. And the other one, when they were calling it through that they had that they were following the suspect, of course, other police officers jumped into it too. So he pulled into here. At this point, the police don't even know that he doesn't have those 3 children that he took from the Harrison Street house after he shot their mother. right in front of them while they were alive still. So those 3 kids right now haven't been accounted for. It's still a very fluid, very active, very sad situation. They're trying to find 3 kids that she said were taken from her home. So it wasn't until they got here, gunfire went off. It is not known whether he took his own life or whether he was taken out by police officers. We know police officers engaged in gunfire because the state police have taken over that part of the investigation. So yes, police did fire at the killer. I'm led to believe that he was taken out by the cops. And then after he was dead, which happened in matters of seconds, literally, that's when they were able to get to the car that he had hijacked and realized that those 3 children were not in that car with him. Thank God. But not that it matters. They still lost their life, but it did save them some trauma just in those few short minutes. So these are the 3 places that when they say that there are 3 different investigations, homicide investigations going on, it's in these 3 places. From here, let me tell you how far this is because it looks like it's pretty far. It's not. So let's just go right here at the where his wife and children lived and where all the kids were found deceased. From here to here, that's kilometers. We don't read kilometers in America. I wouldn't even know how to do that. Miles. It's 11.7 miles. And we can look at the timeline on here, you guys. He, let's see. At 6:15 is when the officers received information that the suspect had carjacked someone. A chase ensued. And began to continue into Bossier City. Officer believed at 6:20 that the 3 children might be in that car. And at 6:30, officers locate and shoot and kill, it says, locate and shoot, kill suspect in Bossier City. And then at 6:40, which is 10 minutes later, it was put out that there were no children in that vehicle. And that's when they had to start identifying kids, right? And who they belong to. I haven't found anything yet. You guys, there are 3 mothers involved in this altogether. 2 that were shot and that are still in the hospital. And there's another mother. And I'm thinking it is the mother of the nephew that was killed. Because remember, 8 children were killed. There was a nephew there as well that was killed. And his father released a statement on Facebook saying that that was his and the baby's mom. His name was Marcaden. Marcaden Pugh is the one that was the nephew, and his dad put out on his Facebook page that that was his only son. So y'all, this is terrible. Terrible. Let me jump back in chat really quick. Thank you so much, Mel. Oh, Sag, I'm sorry to hear that, honey. I'm glad you got out. I'm glad you got out, and I'm glad you have a great life right now. That's beautiful. I love it. Um, Steve is so tired. He's got to sleep. I am too. You skipped on ice. Yeah. Steve says, bastard, all those bullets he couldn't get, and he couldn't get my wife. Steve. Tasha, your sister's gone live. Can't imagine how scared they were. Yeah. I mean, so he goes over there, he kills practically the whole house that his wife lives in, inside out, on top of the roof. And while she's on the phone with the police, letting them know, look, he shot up everybody in my house, and she had been shot too. Then another call comes in because he ran over to Harrison Street, and from there he shoots his girlfriend, his other children's mother, and thank God didn't kill her on the spot. But once he does that, he grabs his 3 kids from her, leaves that house, heads back over to 79th Street, where he's already killed all these children, and he murders 3 more, and then he hijacks. I don't understand that. Those babies. I mean, the trauma. And then the 13-year-old who survived, jumped off that roof, and sustained broken bones, but at least his life was spared. But imagine the trauma for the rest of his life that he's going to deal with. I just can't imagine, y'all. I can't imagine that. These are babies. They're babies. Hi, Erica. Erica says, hi, all. I have a question for you. Were all the children siblings? They were half siblings. 7 of them were his by 2 different mothers, is what I'm thinking. And he shot both of the mothers, who are still in the hospital right now, one being in critical condition still. And the one child that was not his was a cousin of his children. So and I know I had read on Facebook his dad's condolences, sentiments about everything that happened and how much he loved his boy, and that was his only son. So not that it matters. It doesn't matter if you have 20 sons and you lose one, it's still difficult. But and that he was just heartbroken because he knew the man. He knew him. Hi, honey. Good to see you. Sag says, do you think he was planning it or the spur of the moment? Alex says, I think he just snapped. Well, maybe he snapped in the moment, but we do know from reports that his mother had shared with the police is that on Easter Sunday, he had texted his mom and told her that some people don't get over their demons, and that he felt like taking his own life. Well, I wish he would have. I know that sounds harsh, but why did it change? Did he tell his mom? Did he tell his mom, hey, I feel like taking my life and just killing the rest of my family? That's what I just want to be done with everything. And look, I don't want to victim shame anybody, but if anybody ever tells you something like that, and you know that they've got problems anyways, I kind of feel like these people knew that he had some kind of problems, whether it was some kind of mental illness or just some kind of evilness within him or whatever. At what point do you call the police and say, you might just want to go ahead and take him in on a 5150 because he's talking about killing himself? And definitely, if he is talking about harming anybody else, his children, his family, anything like that, she should have definitely called the police. Just no, Erica, he was killed by the police. Did he shoot at the police? Yes. Yes, it was said they exchanged gunfire. They exchanged gunfire. I don't know, you guys. I'm not thrilled about doing these kinds of things, but I mean, I'd rather be on here laughing and joking and carrying on with you guys and showing you stupid stuff that I do and hanging out with my dogs and talking about business. But I always said I wanted to do a real life channel about real lives and real people. And unfortunately, this is a part of life too. Life is not all happy all the time and put together in a pretty little box. Sometimes it's messy and it's ugly and it's hell. And I guess to be true to myself and true to my channel, there are cases like this and other stories like this that we will all be talking about because it's part of life. And there's plenty of us that have been through some of the same things. And if it wasn't for the grace of God that some of us got out of it, we could have been in the same predicament. And prayerfully, somebody's listening who, if they're in the situation, that this will shake them and make them say, I'm out one way or another, I'm out. And get them babies out of there. No children. Now we've all heard our parents fight and fuss and carry on. I have fight and fussed and carried on in front of my kids. Now after the first marriage, I always said, no, I never thought I'd have any more kids, but when I did have one more, because of what happened in my first marriage, I was like, I'll never let that boy see or feel or anything like that. Like, I'm just going to keep him wrapped up in love and all that. But I mean, let's just be realistic. Most of the time I tried, but of course, my relationship with his dad was nothing like my relationship with my first husband. So I can't say that I can say it. He never saw any violence. He just saw two parents that loved each other, that are two different people that you're always going to square off with everybody. Right? Alex says mental health is still seen as taboo, unfortunately. Oh, Sag, you're so sweet. Thank you for saying that to me. I appreciate you. Alex, it's been 2 years. 2 years ago, I interviewed on my channel a couple of college kids from my son's college. Because I wanted to understand them. I wanted to understand my own son's age, right? And what college was like for them, and what being a young adult, what did they want me to know about them that I didn't know? What did they want to know about me? Let's work through some generational things together, right? And we did about, I don't know, girls, how long was it? About at least an hour and a half, 2 hours we did a live with 4 female college students. And not only them, but I was sent pictures from my son, and they had, because the girls went into the bedroom to go live with me, and be with me. And then my son was sending me screenshots. There were tons of kids in the living room listening to my live. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until my boy started sending me pictures. Everybody sitting there with their phones, a laptop on their lap, like staring at our live and watching and listening to this conversation go on. And I'm going to tell you what, I was blown away, because before I had that conversation with them, and I've had it with my own kids, but it's different. I raised my kids, so I've had a little bit of influence there, some of the answers, I'm just like, whoa, like, who raised you? We need to re-talk about that. But most of what I heard come out of my kids' mouths is what I've taught them. So I couldn't talk to my own kids about the generational stuff and understanding each other. It was probably one of my favorite lives I ever did, because I used to think you guys were screwed. We're screwed. My generation is screwed, because my generation, I'm 56. I believe in taking care of my parents. If my parents needed a place to live, they'd have their butts right in here with me listening to my mouth. I respect my parents. I always have. I come from that generation where there was a lot of discipline, and I was just raised like that. I was raised as a military brat, and maybe that has a little bit more to do with my upbringing. We were very, very disciplined. Sometimes too hard disciplined. A lot of times too hard disciplined. But I've always have the highest respect for my parents. And thankfully, I've still got all my parents except for my mom, my mom. And, but that's another story. But I've got the dad who raised me. I found my bio dad since my mom passed. And I just love these. I love them, and I take care of them. And then I also live in the generation where I didn't have babysitters. I didn't know what a date night was. I bet you guys didn't know that either, did you? Did you know that there's such a thing as date night when you have kids? You just get a sitter, you see, like once a week or once a month, and you parents go out on the town and connect. I didn't know that was a thing. You know why? Because it wasn't. I raised my kids. I didn't have babysitters. He worked during the day. I worked at night. That's how that worked out. My kids would beg me to go stay with their mama, because my mom wasn't raising my children. First of all, I spent a lot of time overseas without my mom, so it's not like she could be there for me anyways. But I didn't have kids so that my parents would raise my kids. So I went from being respectful to my parents and having that my whole life, and still find it a complete honor. Oh, it just makes me want to cry, but to take care of my parents and love them the way that I do. And then I look back over my kids' childhood, and I would do it all the same. I struggle now as a 56-year-old woman whose last child is graduating college in 2 weeks, and I don't even know who I am, because I raised my babies. And it was all about them, just like your kids were all about you. We were raised in a different time. The minute you had kids, your life wasn't your own anymore. And believe you me, if you think it stops after your kids turn 18 or 22 when they leave home, no, you're not done, because they're not done with you. And then they start bringing home all these grandkids, and it starts all over again. But for me in my life, I didn't raise my kids for me to raise their kids either. And they knew that. And when my first grandchild was born, when I was 40 years old, 39 years old, 38 years old, when I had my very first grandkid, I told my son, I said, I love you. I love your wife. I love my grandchild the most. But I raised my kids. And you're going to raise yours. And it's going to be hard. And there's going to be times that you're going to sit in the floor after they're in bed and you're going to be bawling your eyes out, asking yourself, what did you get yourself into? I said, but you're not the first parent in this world and you won't be the last. And it's going to take a lot of prayer, a lot of guts, a lot of discipline, a lot of love. And I've never had to raise my grandkids. I get my grandkids when I want my grandkids and when I'm sincerely needed. But I said all that to say this. I was worried about the next generation because it's the generation of they barely look after themselves, much anybody else. There's no real human connection. It is connections through a phone or a computer. People don't know how to talk to each other anymore. People don't know really how to carry on a conversation. People can't be in a room full of more than 3 people because it's overwhelming, because that's the generation we're living in now. And so you guys, I was like, we're screwed. We're just screwed. Like, this is it. We're done. These kids don't know what the hell they are doing. Right. So then I interviewed them, 4 girls, and I'll never, ever forget it. I walked away from that interview with so much hope, and not just hope, but like I felt like a flower that had opened up, and I understood that some really good parents had raised those kids, and not just those kids that I talked to, because they were talking for their generation, like the people they knew and what they see in life. And one of the things that we talked about was mental health. And I asked them, do you feel like your generation deals with mental health differently than my generation does or did? And they said, absolutely. And I said, in what way? And they said, your generation, my parents' generation, didn't want to talk about it. You didn't want anybody knowing that you had to go to counseling. You didn't want anybody knowing that you may have to take some medicine to help you get through a day. And the girl said, in my generation, we talk about it. We're always talking about it. We're always looking after each other, like, you know. And she said, as long as I can remember, it's always been okay. It's always, you're not this freak because you've got depression or anxiety. She said, it's more we're a lot more compassionate than your generation was. And I started laughing, and I was like, you mean you guys are soft? But anyways, but then I also had to ask the hard question, right? I was like, I want you to be completely truthful, you know, which they knew that. And I said, do you feel like your generation uses mental health as an excuse? Hi, Ruth. Good to see you, honey. And you know what? They said yes. I was like, in what way? How do you look at that? And they said, well, for instance, if we all want to go for smoothies, right? We're going to go to class that day. After class, we're all going to meet up at this place, do our homework together, and just, I don't know, have Starbucks or something. They gave me something like that. And they said, so then you get together with the group, you're texting everybody, and everybody's making plans. And then you got that one person that's always that one person that's like, no, I'm just not feeling good. I have anxiety, and I'm just so depressed. And they said that happens a lot because we don't know how to talk to each other and say, I just am not down for that. I don't want to go have coffee. I don't want to do my homework, and I don't want to show up for class. So they use mental health. Whereas remember in our day, what did we use? Mom, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. And so we'd stay in bed all day, right? When school gets out, all of a sudden we got so much better. And our parents knew it, y'all. Our parents knew that we was lying and frying, y'all. And that's what's happening with them. So instead of just saying, I just don't feel good, I have a stomach ache, I got muscle cramps, I got blue balls, I got whatever's going on, they use mental health. Or they use mental health for things that that not only their generation is doing now, but it's a learned behavior through mental health that is something like, yeah, I act that way, or I did that because I have this problem with my mental health. So yeah, sorry I was mean to you, but I have anger issues. Do you? Okay. So it's being used as an excuse for behavior as well, bad behavior. And because they use the excuse of mental health, and that's a serious issue, even in the next generation who is more understanding and compassionate of it, as they put it to me, they are very aware that people use that for bad behavior. So I asked her, I said, how do you handle it? Do you just give them a free pass? You know, and she said a lot of people do. A lot of people will say, oh, well, they're depressed, or oh, they're bipolar, or oh, they're schizophrenic, or oh, they're this, oh, they're that. And so they get a pass. Trying to choose my words very carefully when I'm talking about this. Listen, I have many people in my life that are that got different variants of mental illness. I've got people in my life that are on different sides of the spectrum for autism. The worst being my sister's best friend that lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. Her grandson is the same age as my baby child. They're both 22, and he's got the worst autism I've ever seen. He is nonverbal. His grandparents, which are at least 10 years older than I am, took custody of him as a teenager because his mom just couldn't deal with him anymore. He's very violent. And the older he got, the more violent he's getting. So she was going to put him in a home, and there was a big to-do, a big probable. So there was a big rift in the family, and the grandmother took her own daughter to court and said, look, we are able, willing, okay to take this child. We have the funds. We can make sure he gets everything he needs in life to help him. I mean, she had been keeping him for days on, and he'd go home with his mom for like, a day and a half, and then she'd show back up at her mom's door and hand it back. And then she ended up having another child. And so that's when she decided Christopher needed to go into a home because she was scared that he was going to hurt the baby. Now, that could have happened, I mean, that's kind of responsible parenting, if you ask me. But for the grandma, that wasn't responsible parenting, because she believes that her daughter should have never had another child, knowing how sick Christopher was. Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue the morality of that. I'm not at chat right now, you guys. I'm trying to make some coffee for beef's sake. I'm not going to sit here and do the morality or what I think should be done or what I think shouldn't be done. It's kind of a mute battle to discuss, if you ask me, because the child's already here. So what's the point about arguing about it now, or giving an opinion on it now? It's not my place. I'm not faced with that decision. So, long story short, or make it a little bit shorter, anyways, because I've already told a long story. She won custody of her grandson, Christopher, who I said is 22 years old right now. And y'all, they're at least 10 years older than me. She's already had a stroke, a serious stroke. She wasn't supposed to make it. She was in the hospital for like 8 weeks. It's a miracle. She's a miracle. She's walking through a miracle. Her husband's had many heart attacks. I can't even count how many. I just can't. Every time I turn around, Greg's having another heart attack. You guys, and they have a safe room in their house. It used to be when Christopher was younger, they had a room in the house that didn't have any furniture in it. It had foam in it. It had walls that had not bubble wrap, but like they put those pads all over the walls, foam pad kind of things. Because whenever he would get into his fits and he would lose his cool, and he's always done that since he was a baby. I remember him biting me all the time. But as they get older, they act out differently. But do you know what? So she used to make him go to, and he knew what it meant, go to your room, Christopher. And he would purposely hurt, like he'll go up and pinch you and squeeze you and things like that. And like I said, guys, I can't see chat right now. Forgive me. I'm in the kitchen and I'm gonna go grab a cigarette real quick, finish this up, and then I'll let you guys go. But you're gonna have a cigarette before I leave. Anyways, so Christopher got bigger, bigger, bigger. And so that safe room that they had for Christopher ended up turning into now the grandparent safe room, because they can't get Christopher in the room, y'all. He's a grown ass man, okay? And he's strong. And and he's nonverbal. So his way of getting his point across is just getting pissed off, throwing everything in the house around. There's nothing on the walls anymore in the house after all these years and stuff. It's a terrible existence, but she just can't let go. And I had many discussions with her, and that's a whole nother story, of course, about his future. But he would pitch a fit, y'all, from a young age. Every time he knew it was time to go to school, he did not want to go to that schoolhouse. Sometimes she would get him to behave himself and get on the bus, and they would take him to school. But most of the time, she would just wave the bus on, because Christopher was in there pitching a fit, and she never gave up. She never just said, "Okay, Christopher, you don't have to go to school today." She was like, "No, you know what's right and wrong. You may not be able to tell me how you feel. You're frustrated because you can't tell me how you feel, but you know when you're wrong." And the reason why she knew when he was wrong, that she knew that he knew right from wrong, is because every time he would hurt her, or even me, or even if you were sitting next to him and he reached over and just pinched the hell out of you because whatever, he would start crying. And then he would rub wherever he hurt you at. He'd kiss it. He'd lay over on you. And that's his way of asking for forgiveness. So when the girls were telling me in that live about how they believe that some people absolutely do use mental illness or any kind of cognitive impairment, however you want to put it, how they use it as an excuse for bad behavior, they said no, they just, for them, they don't. They're just like, if you want to stay home, we're gone. But in their generation, for the most part, people get a free pass. They're just like, oh, he's autistic, or bipolar, or anything, oh, they're depressed. That's why they're so mean. That's why they yell at me. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. And you have to wonder where do we draw the line at that? Where do we hold people accountable? Just like in these babies that are laying in a morgue tonight, you guys. We know that he had mental illness, but we also know he had a record. We know he had mental illness, but we also know that he murdered 8 kids and tried to murder 3 more people. But we know he had a mental illness. Where does the accountability lie? And I understand right now he will never be held accountable. He's dead. But when we're having these kind of discussions, is it wrong to say, I don't think he snapped? If he's well enough to tell his mom, listen, I'm having these dark thoughts about killing myself. And some demons just can't be overcome. Obviously, at that point, he was having a period of clarity, that he knew what was happening in his mind. I don't know what kind of clarity he was having when he was committed these horrific crimes. And it's not just one crime, it's many. But at one point, he had enough clarity to realize, I'm in trouble here. A day later, his kids are dead. My question to you is, at what point, where do you hold people responsible for their actions? Are we just going to give them that pass and say, he had mental illness? That means that every other person out there, that this isn't over. It's going to, sadly, stories like these are a dime a dozen, not this many, and not, thank God, not this many kids. But people getting killed from domestic violence every day happens all over the world. And there are people everywhere that are just like, well, he couldn't help it. Well, she couldn't help it. Well, they couldn't help it. It's just something to think about. These are the things that I've been having trouble sleeping with, thinking about. I don't like to judge anybody. I don't like to be judgmental towards people, because through the grace of God I go, right? But at the same time, we live in a world where, look on your street, I guarantee you 70% of us that live on some kind of street with other houses, there's some kind of violence going on, whether it is mental, physical, sexual, something's going on in that home that's not right. And at what point do we call a spade and say, no excuses? No excuses. Zero. I'm sitting back at the computer now. I didn't. Alex, I like what you said there. You said some people are just bad, not mad. Let's flip that around too. Some people are mad, just not, and not just bad. It goes both ways. And that's the point that I'm trying to make here. Where do we draw the line? Where do we say, no, this is on you, Big Daddy. This is on you, Big Mama. Like you did this. You did it. According to Lenny, can you explain the process in the US? In Australia, when something like this happens, there is an inquest, a court case to work out why it happened. Is that the process in the United States? Usually no. There's nobody to prosecute. There's nobody to prosecute. Could there be some litigation brought up against maybe his parents, his mother, who he had a discussion with and the police weren't called, sure, you could prosecute any. I mean, you can bring litigation against anybody. Now, whether someone's going to take the case for you, no. But usually in instances like this, yes, there's autopsies being done. Yes, they may even study his brain if he's got a brain clot or any kind of, we do know that sports people, they take too many hits to the head. It changes them. Maybe they'll do something like that. Maybe there'll be an understanding. Maybe they'll go through cell phones to see what kind of discussions were going on. If something led up to this, if he was just fucking pissed off because he was getting a divorce and he was done, which I don't know why that would bother him. He had a girlfriend. So, yeah, it's an ongoing investigation, but it's not in the courts, and none of this will even go through the courts anywhere. If that's what you mean by inquest, because what I understand about inquest, isn't that like an investigation that goes on through the courts? I could be wrong. Coroner's inquest. The coroner would be highly involved, highly. Hi, Vic. Worked in mental health in the 80s. Reagan shut down all the crisis centers across America. Remember, pull up by your boot. The little poop. I said that all wrong. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I don't remember that, but I remember hearing it when I worked in the medical field as well. And I know a lot of people in the medical field really disliked Reagan for all of that. They'd have everyone involved in the social sector, but he was the cause of his own demise. Vic says some weeds do have to be pulled from society. That's what they. Don't get me started on COVID. That's what all the leaders are saying, right? You gotta pull some of. That's a whole different topic. Inquests are where big change and recommendations can happen. It's a court case about the event with witnesses, etc. They examine the cause of the event. What happens there? It's not necessarily what happens is what just happened in Idaho 4. Okay. So Brian Koberger was going to court, right? He pleads not guilty, right? So, I mean, he pleads guilty, right? So now there is no court case. All right. It would just accept what happened and move on. No. One of the victim's sister, Kaylee Goncalvis's older sister, Olivia, she started a petition. That's how our quote unquote inquest stuff does. You start this petition, right? Because you want a law made. You want to present a law into effect. Like we have different laws that are named after certain victims laws, and that's how they come about. So what Olivia Goncalves did, is that she started a petition, and then she went before her board of representatives, and I think it wasn't in Congress, because it was her state, and she went before her state to have the law removed that they could not that nobody could pay for or ask for any kind of pictures of a violent or of any deceased person anymore, right? It took her about 3 or 4 times to go before the committee and with her petition and her, her understanding of how it impacts family members who are victims too, to know that their family members' pictures and personal stuff can just be gotten by anybody. And that's we've already got that as a law in about 5 or 6 states right now. Well, Idaho's is going to go into law in July. So you will not be able to get people's pictures anymore in those states, unless you go on the dark web for them and somebody leaks them. That's just how it goes. So it's not really an inquest. It's like a personal pursuit. And if it's something that is really big like this, or prosecuting like prosecuting somebody who kills a pregnant woman, if she is so far along, then some states say that if the pregnant woman dies and the child dies too, then you've committed 2 murders. But we don't just get to go to court and the court doesn't, we don't have a trial or a hearing on it. They just have hearings in these big staterooms or whatever. And if they get enough votes for it, they pass it into law. So I hope that made sense. Our behaviors are not always mental. It comes from selfishness. Bottom line, some people just don't give a shit. Said in true RC form, and I love that. I love that. He is the godfather of this channel. If you guys have never heard RC talk on my panel before, you're missing a great time. He will read you your rights, give you a hug, and but he tells you like it is. The man researches constantly. He is a veteran. He is raised, I know he doesn't mind me saying this because he's put it out there himself. RC raised 3 children on his own, and we love our RC. He's a very knowledgeable man that's lived a lot of life and did it the hard, honest way. And those are the best people. So tells it like it is, and that's why I think me and him get along. But you're right, RC. I believe you. Some people just don't give a shit. So, all right, y'all. I have kept you on here for over 2 hours. I'm so sorry about that because I only meant for it to be an hour. That's what I told my mods. I was like, just give me an hour. Let me get this out there. But when I get invested in my heart about something, I have to just get it all out. And maybe that makes me a loudmouth. Probably. But when I get passionate about stuff, I can't stop. I'm passionate about this and those babies and that 13-year-old who's got to live with everything he saw and heard. I mean, it's one thing to be an adult to carry that type of burden, but to be it's just going to take me a while to get over this one. Like I said, not that it doesn't happen every day on our streets and in our cities. It happens all the time, but when it's just so violent, so many like that so quickly, it's just like, damn. Anyways, y'all, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for being here for me. I appreciate it so much. You guys, I'm just going to pray about this case. I'm going to pray for the victims involved. Unless something big hits or whatever, I'm going to close this one out and just remain mindful of them and always remember them for myself, like I have to do with everything that I find sad. But when their funerals do happen, I probably will just do one live on the funerals just to remember the babies one more time. And this is just one of them I'm not going to forget. I just see their faces and I can't. It's hard. It's really hard. All right, guys. You shut up, RC. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. We double tap the screen as you're leaving. Last person out, turn the lights off. You guys, I don't feel like putting up a bubbly, happy, jumping around, all excited kind of outro. So this is my outro. Y'all be good or be good at it. See you next time. Bye.